Florida State's Mike Norvell needs to make a critical decision at quarterback, and he has three options. If it doesn't work out, that may be curtains for Norvell's career at Florida State.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the nation's #1 sports podcasting network, Locked On. We are brought to you by our friends at Mazda. We put the same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work that defines you. Stay tuned for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. There is more to a Mazda because there is more to you. Florida State, that is going to be the topic today across the board. And to be honest with you, it is a very tumultuous situation in Tallahassee. 2 wins in 2024. It's just unfathomable. Followed up by 5 wins, despite 3-0 to start last year. Losing games to teams they shouldn't. Quarterback play was up and down, and Tommy Castellanos no longer a part of the program. So we'll get into that. That's going to be the mainstay. But later in the show, the DB room has talent. But there was an outburst by one of their star players on a live show earlier in the offseason. That is a problem. We're going to get to that. We're going to talk about the offensive and defensive lines. Deuce Robinson, no doubt one of the best players in college football. Do you know about him? Do you know how good he is? Did you know he averaged over 19 yards per catch last year? He's a dude. We'll talk about the running back room. It's actually pretty loaded. But again, to start the show, and if you take nothing else from it, Mike Norvell's tenure pretty much hinges on his ability to figure out quarterback. So they have 3 guys. Now, I'm not saying this is a perfect scenario for Florida State, but they have 3 quarterbacks that could end up being the guy. I think Kevin Sperry should be given every chance to win the job. He's going to be a sophomore, but I don't know if that's realistically going to be the case. So with that, I'm going to share my screen for those of you listening to this and watching live on YouTube. And if you're not, that's okay. I will read it all off to you, but here's a little bit of what we got going on here. It's not an easy scenario to kind of just try to figure out, but these are the 3 players. Ashton Daniels, he transfers in. He's originally a player that was at Stanford this past year. He was at Auburn, and at the end of the year, he lit it up. He did really, really well against not only Vanderbilt, but Alabama. And here's the key stat that's sad. Even though he lit up Alabama, they had 7 drops. If they even catch 3 more of those passes, they probably beat the tie. That's one of the woulda, shoulda, couldas that Auburn fans are probably not happy about, but he transfers in. He transferred, and Gus Malzahn recruited him to FSU. And then they also got Malachi Marshall. JUCO won the national title at Iowa Western Community College. He's not the biggest dude, but he had 33 touchdowns. And if you throw 33 touchdown passes, you're pretty good. Watching his film, I'm not really sure you're going to find many guys that can, A, make the first guy miss like he does, extend plays, keep your eyes down the field and make plays like him. But again, he's 170 pounds as he's listed. He's got to get up to 180, 190, in my opinion, because you're not going to survive in major FBS unless you do. But he's a playmaker. That's an option. Then again, the other guy that I really think is an opportunity is Kevin Sperry. I don't know for sure how he's going to go about it. We'll see. They also added Dean DeNoble, a kid out from Lafayette, as an extra player. I don't think he'll really do a whole lot. He was a guy that played FCS, if you will, high-level academic institution, but that's a player that's on the roster, and it could be somebody that does something for them. My question now, before I'll throw some other questions up on the board here in a second. Do they get it figured out in spring? It would be really helpful if not only Norvell knew, but the entire offense, the team, hey, this guy separated himself in spring ball. If you don't separate yourself, man, that's a problem. You've got to have somebody really step up and be that guy, because then if it's clear that player all the way through summer workouts when the players just work by themselves pretty much, there's a short session now where coaches get to work with players, but by and large, it's still players. You can get the number one quarterback with the number one unit in just reps. It's everything, man. If you don't have it, you're probably going to lose that battle in the fall of figuring it out if you got to go all the way down the wire. You can't be juggling three guys. At very least, can they get it to two by the end of spring, whichever two of the three? Again, Ashton Daniels, Malachi Marshall, Kevin Sperry. Those are the expected. And Sperry, for those that don't know, he's a guy that he played enough, in my opinion, that you have an idea what he is. He's 6'1", about 210. He was a freshman out of Texas. He's built. He'll probably be 220. He didn't have a lot of stats this last year, but that's a guy. And he's also somebody that physically, I think he has enough power in his body to really make it happen and be a guy that, if you just give him enough reps, he could be that player. Because if you're going to run the quarterback, and Norvell's known to do it, not as much as Malzahn did because he's retired and he loved running the quarterback, but I think Sperry could be that guy. But my guess is they'll go with the more veteran player. We'll see. But what I don't want to see Florida State do is just rotate quarterbacks and it's just a hodgepodge. You need one quarterback, if at all possible. So with that being stated, here are a few questions that I have on Florida State. In the picture here, for those of you watching on YouTube, that is Mr. Deuce Robinson. Which Florida State quarterback takes command of the offense? That's what we've been talking about. You can't ask that question enough times. When I say take command, I mean it's definitive. Number two, the offensive line. They have 5 transfers again this year. Is it going to be 5 transfers? Is it going to be a combination? They've got a few guys that are pretty highly touted that are coming up the ranks. Who starts? How does it fit together? That's the second, probably biggest question beyond quarterback. Because if the offensive line doesn't mesh together, your quarterback's going to get the crap beat out of it. Number 3, Usman Chroma. This is a running back that was touted last year. He started a few games. He was an elite recruit out of high school. He's about 220, power back. He could play in any offense, great hands. Is he the guy? Is it Quintravion Wisner? Is it Sam Singleton? Is it a combination? Regardless, they are very talented in the backfield. Do they get over the top in the running game this year? They were pretty good last year, but they weren't always consistent. When teams couldn't handle them, they just bludgeoned them. Would like to see just a slightly bit more consistency, especially in road games. They were terrible in stretches in road games and it killed them. That needs to be fixed. Number 4 is an easy one. Deuce Robinson. Is he the best big play receiver in college football? I think he is. When I say big, I'm talking about like 6'5" guys. There aren't many like him. If you want to talk about Jeremiah Smith, he's 6'3", 220. He's about the same size. He's a little thicker. That's probably the best, but he's not quite as big as Deuce at height. I mean, how do you want to put that together? But Deuce could be considered a flex tight end. He's a unique guy. Do they utilize him better in the red zone? Even though he averaged 19 plus per catch, he only had 6 touchdowns. I was a little surprised by that. Now, he dropped one that he should have had in the end zone against Virginia. But what about the other opportunities? Like, should they have read it more? Should they have passed it more? Should they have just forced it to him? I don't know. But you got to get Deuce the ball as much as possible. Number 5. On the defensive side, Kevin Wynn. He was a freshman nose guard last year, elite recruit, 300-plus pounds. Does he make a major impact this year? Because if he doesn't, they lost Darrell Jackson Jr. to the draft. They just don't make guys as big as Big Kevin. He's 6'2", 330-something. If they don't find somebody like him, that could be a problem. They need somebody to rotate in, but I don't see how it's going to work. They've got a couple other guys that could be okay, but I'm a little bit concerned. When we come back, we're going to finish up this list, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about defense, some stats, and some concerns I have, especially the DB room. That is next right here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed sponsored jobs, that is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to people who fit your specific criteria. It could be the experience, the location, the skills, certifications. It could be all kinds of things or a combination. Indeed lets you decide. And while you're working, they're finding you somebody so you're not spending your time and your money and effort getting candidates as you go through resumes. Indeed does it for you. And here's probably the coolest part. This is about a minute that I'm going to be talking. And on average, per Indeed's data, 27 hires are going to be made worldwide with Indeed. So listeners of this show, you get $75 in sponsored job credit to help you with the job that you're looking for with premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Again, Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. We are also brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Mazda. Today's show is moving the game forward with Mazda. For those who show there's more to the score, that's what's on the screen for you today, and it's because of all the opportunities that Mazda presents. And I'm just going to talk about something that I love, and that's the Winter Olympics. I know many of you probably are watching it. It's not an easy thing to do, to go down an icy slope at 100 mile an hour, or the luge or the skeleton, any of those. They're unbelievable. And I am absolutely glued to the TV watching those people. I don't care if it's men's sports or women's. When you're able to go that fast, it's pretty amazing. And all the time they put into it to do something once like this every 4 years, it's pretty incredible. This reminds us what it takes to raise the bar. It's all the extra work on and off the court, giving that extra fire, that grit, and I will never quit. We put the same passion in every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there is out there on the court. There's more to a Mazda because there is more to you. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out the Everydayer Club, $5 a month or $50 for the year. You get your ads eliminated on your audio feed. Again, $5 or $50, however you want to set it up. And there's a Discord. Just check out the link below in the description. Now, I want to go back into the questions here, and then I'll get into some more stats. Talked about Kevin Wynn, but right behind him, linebacker, how big an issue is it going to be? I think it's going to be massive, personally. I think it's going to be absolutely massive. Florida State didn't spend on the defensive side like they did offense. Part of it was Deuce, retaining him, which was important. Chroma and, getting a quarterback, et cetera. There are different things. But defensively, they needed more help at linebacker, and I just don't think they did enough numbers-wise or up into talent, like that top of the board. I think it's going to hurt them. Number 7, and I just kind of noted it. How much more money did they really need to spend with the portal additions, especially on defense? Finally, this is the one that I'm very leery of. The secondary for the Noles is loaded. It's got a lot of talent from a raw perspective, but they still struggled with giving up big plays last year in key situations and or not wrapping up. They lost a couple of key guys in the secondary, and Ashwin Barker, a supremely talented player, not just somewhat, supremely talented. He went on a live stream, I believe it was Instagram, a couple of months back. He had decided to come back instead of head to the draft or transfer, and he was mad. And I get it about how much money they did not spend with the defense and adding players. Now, they ended up keeping some guys that had said they were going to leave. The Desir twins said they were going to leave. Kevin Wynn at one point was kind of rumored. And they kept a lot of them. But what did they add? It's not like you were going to replace Darrell Jackson. I get that. But linebacker, could they have taken another big-time corner? They kept Jabril Rawls. That was good. But did they do enough to really improve or, quote-unquote, raise the bar? No. Not based on what's on paper, and he went off. Now, he later apologized, but he let it rip. There's no way you're going to tell me that Florida State's in a good spot with their locker room after what Ashland Barker said. No way. That could come back to haunt them. Here's a big point to that. They start the year with New Mexico State, but then they play SMU at home. They lose that game. They've got a week off. Then they go to Tuscaloosa to play the Alabama Crimson Tide. If they start 1-2, that could be a big problem. Then a few games later, they got Virginia at home, at Louisville, at Miami. Bye. That bye week could be when Mike Norvell gets his walking papers. It's possible. Those are just the realities of college football. Now let's dive back in to some of those numbers and statistics, and then I'll dive into the chat. I know Salty's in there with some comments and questions, and it's going to be a very unique scenario for Florida State, to say the least. They've done so many things to put themselves in a tough spot, but I digress. Running back won't be one of them. They had Quintravion Wisner. He's averaged just under 4 yards a carry each of the last couple of years for Texas. He started 9 games last year, 165 snaps, 606 yards, 3 touchdowns. Good receiver out of the background, 22 catches, 146 yards and a score. I mean, it was McChroma. I don't know what the deal was. They kept saying early on he was going to be the guy, but he only started a couple of games. 72 carries, 405 yards, 5.6 yards per tote. That's pretty good. I'd imagine that he's going to get the ball more. He didn't have a rushing score, by the way, which is so weird. 9 catches. He did have 1 reception for a TD, 16.3. He's a tremendous receiver out of the backfield. And they got Sam Singleton. Started 2 games out of 8, 360 yards, 7 yards a tote, 4 scores. They're pretty good at running back. I'm not worried about that spot for the Noles. They're pretty good spot, and they got a good freshman too, so they'll be okay there. Deuce, his stats last year were absolutely off the charts. 56 catches, 1,081 yards, 19.3 and 6 scores. He made 18 of 34 contested catches. That's 52.9%. And he was just a guy that teams had to try to stop. Boggs, that's a key guy. They got to do something, figure out. He was hurt much of last year. He'll be in the middle of that lineup in terms of like putting him in the slot, moving him around. He's got a lot of talent. The other guy here at the top of the screen, for those of you watching on YouTube, Malachi Marshall, one of the fastest human beings on planet Earth, literally. He's a 400-meter guy, but he can run any event. He is just electric. Does he improve his route running and know the full scheme? If he does, this is a guy that will be in year 2 of actually being a receiver that could just be absolutely electric. He had 216 yards, 18 yards per catch last year, 3 scores, rushing the football as a receiver. And then he had 27 catches, 571 yards, 21.1 yards per catch, and 3 touchdowns. So those are a couple of points. And then, as I noted, here are some of the notes as it relates to the defensive line. I just want to touch on Kevin Wynn again. Only played in 4 games, 40 snaps. He's important. You need to be able to stuff the runs. Your secondary isn't guessing all the time. On 3rd and short, you need it to be 3rd and medium, 3rd and long. They do have Jabril Rawls back. Started 7 games, and when he was in the lineup, they were definitely better. I thought he was their best corner last year by a considerable margin. 40 tackles, 17 stops. He only allowed a low rate of reception yard. Like, he just dominated when he was in the game in terms of yards per catch, like somewhere like 7-8 yards a catch. And he was a guy that made plays. He absolutely made plays. And then again, Ashton Barker, how dialed in is he for Florida State ever after his live stream rant? I can't really answer that, but I can say this. If Florida State's going to have a good year, they have to figure out the locker room. They've got a lot of new additions. They got 23 last year and this year, so it's not like they've avoided transfers. But when you got guys going on live streams complaining, at some point I just wonder if that's going to be a problem. Yeah, it may not be right now because it's the off season, but if anything happens in spring or summer or anything else, those kind of things get drug out, historically speaking, not just Florida State, anywhere. I'm curious if that happens. And again, all these young men understand that Mike Norvell and the staff are on that cusp of being fired. So will they be fired? When we come back, I've got several comments I want to get to in the chat, and I want to give my final thoughts on Florida State because this is a team that right now I don't even have going 500. Can you convince me otherwise? Comment if you think Florida State wins at least 6 games next year. I got them at 5. I'm going to talk a little bit about the schedule, get into the chat. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future bet, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win the NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right. Tickets to the game, absolutely, but you get your flight, the whole experience. If you're ready to take that shot on whatever pick it is, the team you think is second place in the Western Conference right now, you think they're going to jump up. If you think it's an opportunity for 2 teams to meet in some way, shape, or form in the Eastern Conference Finals, whatever it is, figure it out for yourself on FanDuel with your futures bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, now I want to jump into the chat, but one quick comment. Florida State may be the most interesting team in college football this next year in terms of just who knows what's going to happen. Trying to figure them out is really, really hard. Just wanted to say that. And I covered for Locked On Seminoles, but it is not easy. All right, got several comments here from Salty, and he is the only guy in the chat today. Got a small crowd for Florida State. I think a lot of FSU fans are tired of it, and I don't blame them. Well, Florida State's athletic poor position, $100 million or more in debt. It's over 400, Salty, literally. How can they even afford to fire Norvell? Well, I'm going to tie that into your second question. If Florida State athletics had a positive financial position last year, would they have fired Norvell prior to this season? Yes. I'm pretty sure of that. They had over $200 million in bonds. I think it's closer to 3 for all the renovations to Doak and all that. Now, that's not booster donations, but it's bonds. It's like 3 to 4.5% or whatever. It's not a terrible rate, but still. That's a lot. Secondarily, timing is everything. They're not out of the ACC. They're not in a good spot, but that's just where they're at. So with their $100 million, as you said, being really over 400, I think that's a big part because even though it's bonds, it's still debt. Now, an undefeated season might provide 3 or more years of confidence in any program, but if that season's team was built largely through the portal, how many years of confidence should a program get? This is a great question. I don't know. 2023, they hit Jared Verse, obviously, their offense was explosive. They had, guys all over the place that ended up getting drafted or at least going to the combine. Fisk had come over in the transfer portal. They hit the inside straight with portal at running back, at offensive line, at quarterback, at receiver. Johnny Wilson, they had Keon Coleman, all these different players. And on defense, some of the guys, Ronaldo Green, they all figured it out together. But to be honest, and to Salty's point, the majority of playmakers were portal players. You got to know that that's a short leash. Norvell had run his course in terms of not doing a good job recruiting the high school ranks and developing players. It's not that hard to recruit to Florida State, so he put himself in a lot of bad spots. Here's an off-the-record kind of question. Salty, what are your favorite 3 Olympic winter sports? And if curling is not one, why not? Curling's okay, but give me anything with speed. The snowboarding, the obviously downhill skiing, and then any of bobsled, the luge, or especially the skeleton, those are all just awesome for me. Salty, this whole football coaching thing doesn't work anymore for Norvell. Should he consider moving on to curling? That's funny. Maybe it's better for him because right now I don't know. Let's see. What happened to Malachi Nelson? He seemed like he can't miss quarterback out of high school. He's just been above. I don't think he can read defenses. I forget where he transferred to. I think it's Syracuse. He's terrible. What is the brand of watches above your back left Oakley case? If you're talking about the ones in the small case, I mean, all of those are Oakleys, but the one just over my left shoulder, those are called over the tops. That's an old school, and they don't have sides. They just literally go over the top. And as far as the other stuff, I mean, and then the watches, those are all Oakley watches too. They do watches. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for today's show. If you've got any comments or anything regarding Florida State, if you're listening to this later, comment down below on YouTube, etc. I'm curious what people think outside of the Florida State realm, because I run Locked On Seminoles, and Lord only knows that group is absolutely angry at the world. Anything I post, they don't like. Just nothing positive to talk about. Florida State football is in an awful spot until otherwise proven, and I certainly don't have the answers. I just got a lot of questions. But with that, thank you to everybody that stopped in today for the live show. And if you're listening later, I appreciate you stopping in. This has been the Portal Podcast. We will see you again soon.